Is this the dagger?
You probably don't have as much popular fame as some other guys like LeBron and Steph Curry. Do you prefer to fly under the radar a little? Does it ever bother you that you don't have as much notoriety as some other guys?
No, I mean, I'm not playing the game for that reason. You know, I'm out here playing to have fun and trying to be the best player I could be. And, you know, I'm happy with myself and, you know, what I have done in my career. And I'm just going to keep going from there. It's not about me being famous or want to have more fame than those guys. It's about me playing basketball and having fun on the floor.
Win or lose in this NBA Finals, I'll just make a bold claim. I think Kawhi Leonard is the greatest Raptor of all time in just his one single season alone. Now, I know this may sound like a stretch, but after only 25 years of never making it to the NBA Finals, never really looking like a legitimate threat to actually winning an NBA championship, and always having a superstar underperform, I think it's a fair claim. Kawhi Leonard never asked to be in Toronto. It wasn't like it was one of his diehard dreams. Even last year when all the trade negotiations started, I never really thought of Toronto as a serious threat to actually get Kawhi Leonard, but it happened, and since he's been there for the last 10 months, he's made the city his. Now, with me saying that he's the greatest Raptor of all time, I already know the first player that comes to your mind when you think of the GOAT Raptor of all time. It's not many, but I know the player that you think of. It's Vince Carter, I already know. But the way I look at it, how great was Vince Carter really when he was with the Raptors? Now, just to bring it back just a little bit, the Raptors became a team in the NBA in the mid-90s, but they really became relevant in the late 90s when they got Vince Carter. He was pretty much their first real star, so they embraced him like he grew up in Toronto. Vince will go on to have a very impressive rookie season, and in just his second season, he would average 25 points, 6 rebounds, 40% from the field, and even 40% from deep. His excitement, his dunks, all the stuff that he brought to Toronto, that would be good enough to get Toronto to a 6th seed and make their first ever playoff appearance. Now, unfortunately, when they made their franchise's first playoffs, they ran into a team with a lot of experience, a team that was fresh off of an NBA Finals appearance, so they got swept and it really wasn't that close. And if I'm being completely honest, in that series, Vince Carter went completely ghost. Now, to me, Vince Carter was very talented, athletic, but he's the most underperforming player in NBA history. With his talent and all his hype coming out of North Carolina, getting comparisons to the greatest player of all time, you'd expect his resume to be a little bit longer than what it is. Now, of course, he played in 3 different decades, all of that, he's still playing today, but he really didn't live up to what he should have been. In game 1 of that series versus the Knicks, he had a very quiet 16 points on 3 for 20 shooting, not quite Jordan-like. And in game 3 of that series with their backs against the wall, he had 15 points on 5 for 20 shooting. So he wasn't the man that we saw in the regular season. Now, to be fair to Vince Carter, that was his first ever playoff appearance, so you kind of give him a little bit of a pass for that. But in the next season, the Raptors were going to see the Knicks again in the first round, and they ultimately avenged the loss. But to me, Vince Carter again underperformed. Yeah, the Raptors won playing against a very washed up Knicks team, but look at Vince Carter's regular season numbers versus his playoff numbers. Like, it's not even really comparable because he went down in almost every single statistic. In game 1 of that series, I guess he was still kind of having memories from last year versus the Knicks. He had 13 points and went 5 for 22. In game 3, he went 5 for 21. So he was still kind of battling, like, am I a star? Can I play? Can I perform to my level? And he was really underperforming. But anyways, after beating the Knicks, Vince Carter's Raptors were going to see the 76ers in the second round, just like this playoffs. It also went 7 games, just like this playoffs. And it also even came down to the last shot to win this series, just like this playoffs. And while Kawhi was going to hit his clutch shot on a very much higher degree of difficulty, might I add, Vince got a pretty good look at the rim and he missed his. Now, I'm not an idiot. I watch basketball, so I'm not going to fault Vince Carter for missing a clutch shot. That happens every single day. But he did average 30 points for like the first 6 games, and in game 7 he had 20 points and went 6 for 18 and really was kind of quiet. So that's the type of stuff I was talking about. And after that playoff run, Vince Carter would go on to never make the playoffs again with Toronto, and the Raptors ultimately turned into a lottery team. So Vince Carter, his stint wasn't as great as I think people think it was. And I truly understand why Vince Carter was such a big deal in Toronto, because Toronto was kind of looked at as this outside little brother. They're outside the country. No one really goes there. So a player like Vince Carter bringing so much excitement to a country, that's going to make Toronto everywhere praise and make this man seem like he's the god of Toronto. I think Tristan Thompson even said he was the Michael Jordan of Toronto, so I get it. But his stint in Toronto, from the outside looking in, wasn't as great as it probably seems to be. Like, if you take out the dunk contest and you just look strictly on what he did with the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs where it matters most, it wasn't really that much. So much respect to VC, but I just have to be honest. And after Vince, the new star in Toronto became the Raptor himself. And I really like and respect Chris Bosh, so I'm not going to go at him too much. As a big, you're expected much less than if you're a wing player because you simply have the ball less. Typically, no matter how good you are as a big, you need someone running the show with some type of star potential. That's what Duncan had, that's what Kareem had, that's what Shaq had, and all the other great bigs. Chris Bosh never really got that in Toronto, so he couldn't quite maximize his potential there. And to bring it to the next big star in Toronto, DeMar DeRozan, he just couldn't get past LeBron, and his play drastically declined every single time the big moments arose. So I can't put him near the top if he really didn't prove it. And I felt like last year was his best chance when he had the #1 seed, the best Toronto team he ever had, and saw LeBron, and he had a much less talented team, and he got swept. Like, that's kind of embarrassing. So finally, bringing it up to the man himself, the legend, the claw, Kawhi Leonard, and why he's the best Raptor to ever put on the uniform. I'll just fast forward through all of Kawhi's regular season stuff because it's not even significant. In the postseason, to me, is what Kawhi proved to be their GOAT. In the past with the Raptors, all of their quote-unquote stars would at least underperform to some degree in the postseason. Like, their numbers would regress, and when adversity hit, it never seemed like they quite rose to the occasion like you would want a superstar to do. To me, their whole mentality and their whole theme in Toronto changed with Kawhi because of two simple things. He never gets too high on his highs, and he never gets too low on his lows. And they face challenges in almost every single playoff series to me. In Game 1 versus Orlando, they got stunned at home when DJ Augustine hit the big shot, but their team never really lacked any type of composure because of their leader. His cool and his calmness reflected on their whole organization. And what happened next? The Raptors were going to win the next 4. In the series versus Philadelphia, they fell down 2-1. Game 3, they got blown out. Joel Embiid was looking like Shaq during the airplane. It looked like they were about to lose, and pretty much all the pressure shifted on Kawhi and the Raptors not to fall down 3-1. But the Raptors, led by Kawhi, responded by winning 3 out of the next 4 games and ultimately winning the series. And Kawhi hit the greatest shot in franchise history and the only Game 7 buzzer beater ever, and this was his response.
On a night, that was, by the way, that was the first buzzer beating Game 7 winner in NBA history, so no one had ever felt that before. All night.
So you can just see a theme and a pattern with this dude, man. He doesn't get rattled. Then in the Eastern Conference Finals, they fell down 0-2, and everyone, including me, was getting their popcorns ready for a Warriors-Bucks showdown, the MVP versus the former MVPs and all that. But the Raptors never panicked, and the Raptors completed essentially a 4-game sweep for the rest of the series. So you can just see Kawhi's mentality reflected on the whole country. Historically speaking, the Raptors have always kind of been that panicky, never quite won anything, never quite got anything. No stars come there. They never won it, never even been to an NBA Finals. So even when they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's a celebratory moment for them because they don't win. So with Kawhi coming there on what looked like a 1-year rental and actually making the NBA Finals, like, I thought Toronto was going to be good, but I didn't see him in the NBA Finals. I was looking at the Celtics, maybe the 76ers, maybe the Bucks here and there, but I didn't see the Raptors in the NBA Finals. Kawhi dragging the Raptors there, ultimately bringing a whole nother country to the NBA Finals, something that's never been done. I think that alone is enough to claim him as the greatest Raptor ever. Now, if they leave, or if Kawhi Leonard decides to go to the Clippers and leave the Raptors, of course they're not going to keep that mindset of cool, calm, and collectiveness forever because Kawhi is not going to be there. But for this year alone and what they've done, and they have a good damn chance of winning. They just won Game 1 last night, so we never know. This is enough to claim him as the greatest Raptor of all time. Some people might try to bring in the longevity and things like that, but like I said earlier in my video, if you look at Vince Carter, he only went to the playoffs twice. You know what I'm saying? If you look at DeMar DeRozan, he never really got past the second round. He only got past the second round once. and he really didn't do much when he was in the playoffs. So Kawhi bringing him to the NBA Finals, that's enough to claim him as the greatest Raptor of all time. That's the video though, guys. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys leave a like. I know this video might be like a question mark, like, damn, Vince Carter's not the greatest Raptor of all time. No, he's not. It's Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion. Make sure you guys follow my social media sites. Make sure you guys follow my second channel, Swishout Films. It's always in my bio. It's always in my related. Do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, stay tuned.